Is there one prophecy that predicts all of Israel's wars from 1948 and the War for Independence through the Gog Magog campaign all the way to Armageddon, and that ties together passages in Revelation, Zechariah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, one that ties in the prophetic aspects of Israel's ancient wars of Jericho and those of the time of the Judges? One prophecy that predicts Israel's complete future as a nation? Yes, Psalm 83, and that is our topic in today's episode. Psalm 83 is a prophecy written by Asaph, the seer, about 3,000 years ago. And essentially, in this very short psalm, he predicted the entire end times as it relates to Israel, which is simply amazing, as you will see. Now, you have probably watched other videos about Psalm 83. Some say it's about the 1948 war. Some say it's about a war that precedes Gog Magog. And some say it's about Armageddon. And then there's our little video, which says they're all right, because in our opinion, it's about all those struggles, all in one psalm. Why does this matter? Well, because one of those views, the most popular view, is wrong, in fact, dangerously wrong in one regard. And this is the view that we find all over the internet. And second, it's important because it explains questions people have about the Gog Magog campaign, questions that aren't answered any other way, and that frankly make perfect sense with Revelation and the Old Testament prophets. This little psalm helps tie together our understanding of the end times. So watch the video all the way through, because when you do, I think your jaw will drop. In fact, we know it will. So it's good we're doing this as a community. Our top 30 rated YouTube community is rated that way because of the great interaction we have in the comments section. Be sure to leave your thoughts and read the comments of others when the video is over. Now let's begin with the author Asaph. There are some who claim Psalm 83 isn't a prophecy at all because Asaph wasn't a prophet. That is not true at all. He was a prophet or a seer in King David's court, as we learn in 2 Chronicles 29:30. He also wrote 12 of the Psalms, Psalm 73 through 83, plus Psalm 50, all of which have some prophetic elements. These 12 Psalms make up what could be a 12-chapter book of the Bible, but they were organized instead along with David's works in the book of Psalms. Psalm 82 and 83 are the two most prophetic. Psalm 82 is about the judgment of the fallen angels, or what is sometimes called the divine council. If you haven't watched our previous episode on this topic, come back later and click on the banner to learn about this amazing group that currently controls the nations. Psalm 83, however, is the capstone, detailing Israel's history from 1948 up until Armageddon. And it is a history of war and conflict. What it details is nothing short of planned genocide of the Jewish people in order to take their land. And what is detailed in this psalm never has occurred in the history of Israel, that is, up until the Reformation of the nation in 1948. So it was definitely prophecy. And there have been three main theories to try and explain this prophecy. One theory is that it's foretelling the 1948 war for Israeli independence. A second theory is that it is a war that precedes the Gog Magog war, one which launches Israel as a Middle Eastern superpower, expanding its land over 13 times its original size. And the final theory is that it is yet another retelling of the Armageddon battle, but there are problems with each one of these theories taken separately and on their own. But before we get into those other theories, let's look at the psalm itself and see what it says. It begins with Asaph's prayer to God for future generations of Israel. O God, do not remain quiet. Do not be silent. And O God, do not be still. The prophet here is crying out for justice and God's assistance because this is not an issue which Israel can handle on their own. That's because, as we read in the psalm, we learn it is an attempt to destroy the nation and wipe it from the face of the earth. Your enemies make an uproar, and those who hate you have exalted themselves. They make shrewd plans against your people and conspire together against your hidden, treasured ones. They have said, "Come, let us wipe them out as a nation, that the name of Israel be remembered no more." Psalm 83, 2-4. So this is why Asaph is pleading with God to get involved, because what the nations are doing is an attempt to destroy the nation of Israel and its people, and that the name of Israel is remembered no more. And God cannot keep silent about that. God's very reputation is at stake because he has big plans for Israel in the end times. If Israel is wiped out as a nation, God will have broken his promises to Israel. In Romans 11:29, we learn the gifts and calling of God are irrevocable. No matter what Israel has done or not done as a nation, God promises to let them stand. That is one reason the psalmist says your enemies and those who hate you. They hate and attack Israel because they hate God himself, and because Israel are his chosen ones. They strike out at God by attacking Israel. However, in this passage, a portion of Israel are called his hidden treasured ones. This is a very unique phrase. The Hebrew word is saphan and means to hide a treasure. It is used in Exodus, where Moses' mother hid him from the Egyptians for 3 months. It is also used in Psalm 27:5. In the days of trouble he will conceal me in his tabernacle, in the secret place of his tent, and he will hide me. He will lift me up on a rock. Is this talking of his earthly tabernacle or his heavenly one? I think it is his heavenly one. As we learned in this previous video on the temple of God in heaven, the table of showbread is a symbol of the 144,000 that God raptures into heaven along with the Christian believers and into his heavenly tabernacle. If you haven't watched this landmark video, come back and click on the banner to watch it. It is a must-see in our opinion. So, are all of Israel God's hidden treasured ones? No, not in my opinion. God will certainly not shelter or hide all of Israel from his wrath. Only this select group of 144,000 men and likely their associated families. So God's enemies are trying to wipe out this select group that God may first hide in the wilderness, as we see in Revelation 12 when the woman flees from the dragon, and then rapture them into his presence prior to his wrath. When exactly all this happens, we will see later in this video. The psalmist then lists the specific people groups who conspire against the Lord and against Israel: the tents of Edom and the Ishmaelites, Moab and the Hagrites, Gebal and Ammon and Amalek, Philistia with the inhabitants of Tyre. Assyria has also joined them. They have become a help to the children of Lot. That is Psalm 83, 6-8. Let's first figure out who all these groups are today, and then try to apply this to the conditions we see in our modern world. First, notice there are 11 ancient names, and they are grouped, mostly into groups of 2 or 3. The tents of Edom and the Ishmaelites, that is the first grouping. Moab and the Hagrites, that is the second grouping. Gebal, Ammon, and Amalek, that is the third group, and Philistia and Tyre is the fourth group. Assyria is listed alone, as are the children of Lot. So let's start by trying to identify that last group, the children of Lot. Notice all the other 10 ancient peoples come to the help of this group, the children of Lot. That this confederacy revolves around helping these children of Lot wipe out Israel. The sons of Lot were Moab and Ammon, as seen in Genesis 19, verses 37 through 38. It would appear from this that the purpose of destroying the Hebrew people originated with the Moabites and Ammonites, and that they had called for the help of the surrounding nations to enable them to carry out their plan. So in today's world, Moab and Ammon are part of Jordan. So what Jordanian people want Israel wiped off the map more than any other? The Palestinians, correct. They are the ones desiring to control the entire land of Israel. In 2009, Mahmoud Abbas said, "Call yourselves what you want, but I will not accept it. The Jewish state, I will not accept it." This statement comes from the head of the Palestinian Authority, a child of Lot of Jordanian descent originally, desiring the land of Israel. And all these other groups are coming to their aid. One thing to remember as we attempt to identify who the 10 are that remain is that this is based on the time period of the prophet. These are groups that existed in the days of Asaph, who was a contemporary of King David. So we need to look at the political landscape of 1000 BC in order to locate them. And the first is pretty easy. Assyria. During the days of King David, the Neo-Assyrian Empire was reigning. This kingdom controlled parts of Syria, the northern parts of Iraq, and also included small portions of Turkey and Iran. Philistia is modern Gaza, and Tyre is modern Lebanon. Iranian-based terror organizations, Hezbollah and Hamas, are based in these two regions. Ancient Gebal is from this same region as we see in Ezekiel 27:9, and it is the modern Lebanese city of Jubal. We then come to the nation states of Ammon, Moab, and Amalek. Most scholars agree Ammon and Moab are part of the current kingdom of Jordan, and Amalek was in the Sinai. This means there is almost universal agreement about 7 of the 10 nations. However, there is disagreement about the remaining 3. The Hagrites are also part of Jordan, as we can see on this map. In 1 Chronicles 5:10, we read, "In the days of Saul, they made war with the Hagrites," the same group, "who fell by their hand, so that the Israelites occupied their tents throughout the land east of Gilead." So the Hagrites were located east of Gilead, which is a part of Israel. Now, Bill Salus, possibly the most prominent scholar in the Psalm 83 arena, looked at this same name, Hagrites, and thought the spelling was similar to Hagar, who was an Egyptian, so he claimed these were Egyptians. However, the Bible is pretty clear, as we just saw, that the Hagrites were Jordanians in the days of Asaph. However, this doesn't mean that Egypt isn't involved in the Confederacy. No, not at all. Just not the way Salus imagined. The first grouping, the tents of Edom and the Ishmaelites, are a very broad and comprehensive, wide-ranging group. Let's look at the Ishmaelites first. Genesis 25 tells us Ishmael had 12 sons. The Samaritan book of Esther adds that they inhabited the region from the river of Egypt to the river of the Euphrates, and that they built Mecca. Josephus tells us they inhabit the lands which are between the Euphrates and the Red Sea. So the Arabian Peninsula is included, as well as southern Iraq and possibly the western portion of Egypt. In terms of Edom, these are the descendants of Esau who married one of Ishmael's daughters. So their lands are similar to those of the Ishmaelites, but they predominantly inhabited the area of northern Saudi Arabia where Neom is planning to be built today. Because Bill Salas's teachings have been so influential, I want to mention that he considers Edom to be the Palestinians today because of the word tents that is used, and he thinks it implies refugees. But the word tents can be applied to at least Edom and the Ishmaelites, if not more of these groups. Notice in 1 Chronicles, the verse we just looked at, it mentioned the tents of the Hagrites. Many of these peoples were nomadic in those days, and scholars are unified that Edomites were living in northern Saudi Arabia in those days, not the site of current Palestinians. So in conclusion, these lists of nations are genetic in origin. These peoples come from the lines of Esau, Ishmael, the Jordanian children of Lot, and the Canaanites of Gaza and Lebanon. And if we look at this map of the areas included, we see a perfect ring completely encircling the nation of Israel. Nowhere in the Old Testament did these particular group of nations all attack Israel all at the same time. So that eliminates a historic fulfillment. Now we know the nations. Let's look at the final aspect of Psalm 83. Asaph then prayed for God to deal with these nations in the same way he dealt with Israel's enemies in the past, during the times of the judges. Deal with them as with Midian, as with Sisera and Jabin at the Torrent of Kishon, who were destroyed at Endor, who became as dung for the ground. Make their nobles like Oreb and Zeb, and all their princes like Zebah and Zamunah, who said, "Let us possess for ourselves the pastures of God." Notice, these evil, wicked rulers who attacked Israel were always interested in possessing the land. Now, this is a highly ignored passage by scholars, yet it is a key understanding to Psalm 83. There are 3 separate groups of leaders detailed here, so isn't it likely there may be 3 or more future wars detailed? I think it is. 3 sets of wicked leaders. But actually, I think there are 4 wars pictured here. If you want to learn which wars some of these were, and which war or wars are yet future, click right here to watch the conclusion of this video. Now, if it hasn't been published yet, this is an opportunity to subscribe and ring the bell notification, and then you'll be notified the minute it comes out. This is Nelson, and I'll see you there.